pages. Hi everybody, welcome or welcome back to another video. My name is Charlotte and today we're doing it.
God, okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
We're diving into Just Friends by Miss Hayley. I don't know much about the book, like at all. I know it's single POV that we're in the FMC's head all the time. I know it's second chance, and I know Hayley isn't a big fan of the smutty Max Mutterson, so I'm guessing there's not a lot of open door romance in it, which is completely fine. It could be a great book with closed door romance, so I'm excited about it. Now, if you've been around my channel before, you already know this. I am not the biggest fan of a second chance romance. I usually enjoy the book and the story all the way up until the last bit where you figure out why they stopped dating in the first place. And that's usually where the book loses me, because I think a lot of the time communication could have solved everything, and the reason they broke up is stupid. If they break up because they're going to separate colleges, they're doing their own thing, I'm fine with it if they find their way back to each other. But usually one person has done something because they're so perfect for each other, it can't just be simple. And that usually pisses me off, because the thing they've done that the other one can't forgive is usually not that deep, especially when you're like 18 when you do it. So why are we mad 8 years later when your best friend is also friends with the dude you're mad at, and you work next to each other, you see each other every day, and whatever you're mad about could have been fixed with a fucking email? But no, we're going to dive on into it. I am going to go in with it with an open mind. I know it's a second chance romance, but I do like some second chance romances. Rewind It Back is a great book, so, but it's just not my favorite trope. This makes it sound like I already have decided that I'm not going to like it. That's not true. That's not true. I'm just telling you where a second chance book usually loses me. But yeah, should we just dive on into it? Because I am kind of excited. Also, I just have to say, this chapter headers, I think they're so pretty. Like, they are so freaking pretty. Yeah, let's read. Let's read, shall we? Okay, so I like you usually giving just like a first impression after a few pages, somewhere between like 5 and 10 pages, just first impressions of the writing and everything. And I've read 4 pages, and it feels like I need a dictionary to read it, because I mean, I understand the words, do not get me wrong. If you don't understand the word, you kind of do understand it in the context of the sentence. But she's supposed to be, what, in her early 20s? Like she said, the feeling is personified in my stomach right now. Who talks like that? And then here she also says, frivolous, I know. Who talks like this? And it feels very descriptive, like everything they're feeling and they want me to feel gets explained. So it doesn't really feel like I'm getting sucked into the story. The way I like to say it is, when I read a book and the book makes me feel, I'm getting sucked into the story. But when I'm reading a story and the story is telling me how to feel, telling me every little like detail of emotion, then somebody is just telling me a story, and it's harder to get into the story for that reason. So I'm hoping that's going to change later on, that we are gonna, like, different words are going to be used so that we can kind of decide how we feel about it, because we can read the same book and have 2 different experiences, right? But now we read the same book and we're going to have the exact same experience, because it keeps on telling us how to feel. For instance, hi Rosie, I say with a worn smile. We were never close in high school, but she was always sweet, sat in the back of class, smiled at me in the hallways. What are you doing back? I thought you were moving to New York City or something. She waves non-specifically with her hands into the other as she fully emerges from around the corner. At first, I'm astonished by her forwardness. Perhaps I've forgotten how much 4 years can change about a person. But Rosie was particularly known for her lack of speaking. Did I need to know that? Is Rosie going to be important? Well, my hand scratched the back of my neck. My aunt is sick, actually. Came back to spend some time with her. I dropped my hand and tried to smile to show her she doesn't need to feel awkward for asking. It is awkward, though. Oh gosh, Blair, I'm so sorry, I didn't. Before she can continue stammering, I fill her in on the details she's probably wondering about, or maybe I do it in an attempt for it to feel real. It's okay, stage 4 lung cancer. It come out of nowhere and has progressed quickly. I say it like I'm describing the weather, trying to dismiss the rising emotion in my chest. But it will be fine. I tack on. That was good, I decided. Instead of trying to scurry around unnoticed, I actually let Rosie in on something in my life. I try not to regret it as I look at the pained expression on her face, half sympathy, half panic, unsure of how to respond to something so grave. You just said you didn't know her that well, and you're just spewing shit at her? Okay, so I'm like 50 pages in. I did listen to the audiobook while I was out picking up my dad from the airport, and I don't really know how I feel about it yet. Usually at this point, I am debating if I want to keep on reading or not, because if the book hasn't already sucked me in, why would I want to stick around? There has to be something about the book that makes me want to stick around, and right now, I don't feel like there is. Because the thing is that even with the audiobook, I found myself rewinding back because I kept on missing stuff because there were words that just felt awkward and out of place. So I got so hung up on the word, I was like, why did they say that? And then I missed what was happening afterwards and I had to rewind back and, all of that fun stuff. I've read this much. This is how far, I have this left. I think part of, the pacing problem for me is that they do, it is written kind of in a slow way. It is just supposed to kind of just follow along in their lives, right? And they look back on earlier years, which I usually really enjoy because it's in those small moments things click together. But it feels like there's a lot of inspiration taken from The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I just read literally just read the 2 first books in that series. And I can feel there's so much inspiration from that. And there's nothing wrong with getting inspiration. People find inspiration in everything. So that's not what my complaint is. My complaint, you could have found another bird. Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Hayley has read The Summer I Turned Pretty and that is her god tier whatever book. Because what do I know? I'm not Hayley. But yeah, I don't really know how I feel about it. And I don't really like Blair. That's my main problem. My main problem is that I think that Blair just feels a little bratty and she doesn't really understand that even though you should be the main character in your life, you don't necessarily get to be the main character in everybody else's life, right? And she keeps on reflecting on stuff like it's just dawned on her, almost like a philosopher. And I don't know, it feels weird. It feels a little bit weird. It does. But yeah, I put my phone to charge, so I don't have my phone here, which is where I've taken my notes. But one of the other things that I wrote down was that it feels a little bit weird because if you know the premise of the book, she comes back because her great aunt is sick and she applies for a job at a coffee shop where Declan is the manager and ends up working with Declan, and that's how I don't know, she gets it in with him again. He asks her questions and she gets kind of annoyed answering them because he's like, tell me about yourself. And she's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to talk about myself. Like, I've known you forever. Like, in her head, she's like going ape shit. And I'm like, you guys haven't talked in 4 years. He doesn't know your college friends. Maybe he doesn't know what you studied, you know? There are still things you could tell him that wouldn't be natural for him to know without you getting so emotional. And if this is her emotional response throughout the book, I'm gonna end up throwing this in the wall. And I know it's said as new adult, not young adult, but right now it feels like it should be in the young adult section, just because even though Blair is supposed to be an adult, she is acting like a teenager. She's acting like a child. Her responses are childish. Hopefully something happens. But I do like when they look back. I do like when they look back at stuff. I think that's pretty fun. But we'll see how it goes. I've read 50 pages. Oh God. Okay, I haven't read many pages, but the wording in this just, it feels weird. It feels weird. I don't feel like there's a lot of room for interpretation on how either of them feel, even though you're just in her POV. And it feels like, you know, when you write an essay in school and you struggle to hit the word count, so you add in words. That's like the feeling I'm sitting with right now. It just feels weird. Like, this is a look back chapter. It's freshman year of high school. I don't know how old you are, but still. She says, I chuckle at his boyishness. It's refreshing after a long day of school. What do you mean? You've been to school with boys all day. You make it sound like you've been at the office, at your corporate job. What do you mean? But this part had me laughing because she talks about how Declan came over to her house. He came over to my house and asked if my dad was at work. I told him, no, I haven't seen him in a while. And I mean, if either of your parents left while you were a child and, you know, went out for milk and just never came back, first of all, screw them. That's not how you're supposed to parent. Second of all, this is how you're supposed to respond when somebody asks you where they are. They're like, where's your dad? I'm like, I don't know, I haven't seen him in a while. Might be in Vegas, might be in Australia, who knows, to be honest with you. Anyway, do you want something to drink? Still not really sure how I feel about this book. Okay, so I've kept on reading for a little bit and I've talked with a friend of mine as well. And I think she's correct in what she's saying because I said that it feels like this is a book where you're trying to hit a word count. And I think that she's correct when she says that a lot of like the feel-good books are wordy, like they do describe a lot because it literally takes zero brain power to read them because everything you need to know, you get to know throughout the story. Like there's no room for interpreting anything. But what made me stop now, and I'm gonna stop reading for today, I think, and I'm gonna think about it until tomorrow if I even want to keep on reading the book, is the fact that now I've stumbled upon a word that I actually had to Google what it means. Ow, oh my god, you're heavy. What it actually means, because I didn't know what it means. In case you didn't know, Norwegian is my first language, mother tongue, if you want to call it that. Speaking is my second language, and so English is like far down the list. She said that Declan was perturbed. How do you pronounce it again? See, I can't even pronounce it. Wait. Perturbed looking. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, who uses that particular word? And it means anxious. Like, according to Google, it means feeling anxious, troubled, or mentally unsettled, typically due to something unexpected or unwanted. Why couldn't you just write anxious looking Declan. They're supposed to be juniors in high school in that chapter. I think we're going to stop reading for today and we're just going to debate on if this is going to be the end of the video and it's going to be like a full-on DNF, or if I'm going to keep on reading. Because in my head, I'm like, there's not that... The audiobook isn't that long. Like, I can speed through the audiobook. I think I still can turn up... No, I have it on full. On what I can have it on this one. So four hours and 15 minutes. That's a long ass time. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if the video is longer, you know that I kept on reading, but if not... Okay, I kept on reading. It is the next day, and yes, I am wearing the exact same hoodie and hat and everything, and I did spill ice cream on it, but I mean, who cares? Who cares, right? You can't see that well. I am now... I've read this much. Like this, I've inhaled a chunk of it. Part of the problem for me is that I am following the story. I'm kind of in the story, but then these like words that you don't expect someone that is like 22 or 16, one or the other, like someone that is considered a young adult, words are thrown in that are not normal for them to use. And in a way, I understand it when it's her, because her dream is to be an author, and I feel like the book is trying to make Blair not like every other girl. Like, she's different. She doesn't swoon after him because he is the quarterback. She doesn't do this, she doesn't do that. Like, she's different. She's not like every other girl, but they make her, I mean, too quirky, but don't acknowledge that she's very quirky, because he also speaks in a weird way, as a teenager. When you have like the throwback chapters, it's weird. It's weird. I'm sorry. So that keeps on dragging me back out of the story, because nobody talks like that. Nobody, even if it's one person, like, you know, if you talk to someone that's like a philosopher and they're like, oh yeah, I'm a philosopher, you're like, yeah, I could kind of gather that from the way you talk and the way you mannerism, because stereotypical, right? I would get it if it was just her, because she wants to be an author. But it's both of them. It's both. It's both of them use weird words and say weird stuff. And even though things are happening, things are not really happening. They go from 0 to 100. Just like that. I also told my friend, I think part of the problem is that this reminds me of a Hallmark movie. I love watching Hallmark movies. It's one of my favorite pastimes. It's so easy to follow. You don't really have to pay that much attention. I don't like reading them though. I don't enjoy reading a Hallmark movie. And it feels like that's what I'm doing. It feels more like I'm reading a script for a Hallmark movie than I am actually reading a book, because it's so descriptive. It tells me, it gives me so much information that I do not necessarily need. It doesn't leave room for interpretation. And I don't know, miscommunication. It's not just miscommunication between those two. I feel like the way you have a chapter where like her mom tells her how happy she's been and everything, and you're like, oh, well, maybe, you know, Blair should have picked up on that. Blair is just in her own little world. Blair has decided that what she thinks counts. Nobody else thinks, because Blair does it for everyone else. But in some situations, like if my friend was going to go home because their great aunt was sick and they never talked about them, I would have expected that they were going home because their family needed them. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be like, oh, how are you coping with everything? In that sense, I would think that they are going home because that's what you do when family is sick, passes away, whatever. And I would also think that they were there to be a support system for someone else. I wouldn't think twice about it. I wouldn't think twice about it. And she acknowledges that not everybody grows up being close to their great aunt, but then bitches about them not caring about her. And she does this in every situation. She acknowledges something like she's so wise beyond her years, but then it irritates her, and that's why she doesn't do this, and that's why she doesn't want to do that, and blah 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 blah. And it keeps pulling me back out of the story. Use the word anxiety. People use that word. It's not a bad word. It also pulls me out every time she contradicts herself. For having such a great relationship with her mom, they sure do not talk together. It feels like a lot of things are just thrown in here for character building, not necessarily something you need to know in that moment. But I have to say, I do understand the criticism of it. It feels like it's written in a way where they're like, oh, this sounds so pretty. Oh yes, I want them to highlight this. I want them to highlight that. You know, that they want you to go through it with a marker and kind of just mark out the entire book. I don't understand why this is new adult. This could be a young adult book. The only thing that makes this a new adult book is their age. There's nothing more that makes it a new adult book. Blair is pissing me off, literally pissing me off. I understand being the main character in your own life. I think everybody should be the main character in their own life. But Jesus fucking Christ, understand, please, for the love of God, understand that being the main character in your life doesn't mean that you are the main character in everybody else's. Okay, so I just finished my workout. And while I was working out, I also finished this one. And I think this took more from me than the workout itself. Because at the end of the day, I am sad to say I didn't enjoy it. I think I've said most of what I wanted to say about this book at this point. The pacing was a little bit weird. The words that we used, I don't think I know anyone under the age of 105 that speak that way. I think it also felt rushed some places, and there was a lot of plot holes, And it felt like some of them she tried to fill, but that's like the rushed part, if that makes sense. I think at the end of the day, if Hayley ever writes a young adult book, I will want to read it, because I think she could be a fantastic young adult writer, because her writing per se isn't bad, but there's something about the storytelling and the way she wants to tell her story. Maybe she's just way ahead of her time, if you know what I mean. Because the way this story is told, Blair feels like she is... It feels like she is younger than what she really is in this one. And when you have the look back ones when they're in high school, it feels like she's older than she is. And Declan also just throws in some weird words. And yeah, they make fun of it, because he's like, oh yeah, I know how you like big words. You want to be a writer, da 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 da. But they're both extremely dramatic and a little bit, oh my god, look at me, oh my god, sorry me, please feel sorry for me. She has huge main character energy, but like I said, she doesn't understand that everybody's the main character in their own life. It feels like Blair really thinks that everybody else just follow her lead. At the end of the day, it felt like Blair was written in a way to show that she was so different from every other girl that it stepped over every other girl weird and then just unlikable. Like, you just skipped a few steps and it just went straight into unlikable. Because having a friend going through something and not understanding that you simultaneously can also go through something completely different, but it can still bother you, that doesn't make her a good friend. It actually makes her a shitty friend. I gave it 1.5 stars, and I am so sorry to say that. I really, really, really wanted to enjoy it, because the premise of the book is fantastic. I think if the story was told a little bit differently, it would be good. It didn't leave room for you to get to know the FMC. It kind of just told you how to feel and what to react to. I personally don't like that in a book. I like to get to know them. I like to read it. Like, I buddy read it with a friend, and I love when we read things a little bit differently. We pick up some stuff a little bit differently, because the author leaves room for interpretation. It didn't leave any room for interpretation. It told you exactly how to feel, you know? And it also felt like it was written in a way where everything could be underlined. Like, She wrote at some point that a laugh escaped, that she didn't give permission. What you're saying is that everybody should just think that you are extremely sad all the time because you laughed without permission. Like, you didn't give yourself permission to laugh in a situation where you found something funny. Yeah, 1.5 stars. I am so sorry. But like I said, ever a young adult book, I might read that again. I might try that. But so far, I'm sad to say that I feel like the internet is correct about this one. But I would encourage you to pick it up, borrow it from your library or from a friend, whatever, and try it yourself, because it may end up being your favorite book. And at the end of the day, that's all we want. Thank you guys so much for spending some of your precious time with me. I really do appreciate it. And if you made it this far, you know, you can always just go down and hit that subscribe button and tickle the like button, because I've heard she really enjoys when you call her a good girl. And hopefully I will get to see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.